This is Ryan Elliott for Boxing Social in association with Betfred. I'm down at the Mayweather Gym in Las Vegas today. It's like to see Amer Abdallah. Amer, it's been at least 2 weeks since I bothered you for an interview. How you been, my friend?
Yeah. Oh, it's always a pleasure, Ryan. It's always a pleasure, brother.
So, like I say, last time I saw you was Miami a couple of weeks ago. You just been back to the nitty-gritty down at the gym?
Yeah, we're back in action. We had a fun event out in Miami with Gib. Things didn't really go our way, but it was fun. It was good.
I've been speaking to Vidal today. We'll start there because I've seen him down doing his last little bit of sparring. He's got a fight next week on that Showbox card. It's nice to have him back away from the distractions, purely developing his boxing ability now.
Yeah, this is my saying is always this is a sport. This is a business disguised as a sport, and Vidal, for him to get involved with KSI, with Gib, and to brand himself is really great for his image. It's great for his brand. We've gotten some tremendous brand deals from it, and at the end of the day, what we want to do is make these kids as much money as possible during their career. So it was good for him on that sense. But his bread and butter is boxing, and mind you, as he was doing that, he grew his YouTube following to over 1 million subscribers. His Instagram to almost 600,000. It's big. Those are big accolades in today's world, and anybody that doesn't understand that really doesn't understand the business part of it. But Vidal's back to doing what he should be doing and what he's best at, and that is boxing.
You've been around combat sports for a long time. You've sort of seen this young man, like you say, grow his YouTube platform over 1 million subscribers. The social media platform's a huge response to the start coming in. Do you think we could have a future star and monster on our hands in that sense if he keeps developing at the rate he is and if he keeps growing everything else at the rate it is as well?
Let me say this, Vidal is a pioneer in this world. He is bridging over. He is a boxer that started a YouTube channel, not the other way around. So he's bringing that entire audience over of right now 1 million plus all of KSI's following, all of the other social media guys that he's working with also. So Vidal is really going to transcend the sport in terms of that kind of publicity. But more importantly than that is the kid can really fight, and he's a legitimate guy. As soon as Leonard Ellerby from Mayweather Promotions saw him spar and saw him work, he said, man, we want this kid. And it didn't take long for us to make the right deal, and here we are now making our Mayweather Promotions pro debut on the 28th.
He and I were talking before. Obviously, he's in here today. Loads of people watching him spar, getting ready for this fight. About the first time he actually came in here, though, when he was with KSI, I think he sparred with Tabiti. Do you remember the first time you watched him spar?
Oh, of course. It was actually before Tabiti. Tabiti was the second guy he sparred. He came in with KSI. I didn't know who KSI really was at that time. I didn't know who Vidal was, certainly. But after KSI and Badou worked, Vidal came up to me and he said, "Can I get some work in with Badou?" I said, "Mag," I go, "No. I mean, not anybody can just work with Badou Jack." So I said, "I can get you somebody else to spar." And we asked around about him. They go, "Yeah, he's an amateur. He's got a decent amateur background and pedigree." So we got him a guy that was a pro, had a couple of fights. And Jeff Mayweather and I just kind of sat and we watched him work. We just sat over in those chairs over there and just looking up at the ring. And Vidal iced the guy in the second round. He knocked him out. And Jeff and I looked at each other and we were like, damn, this kid's special. And I said, all right, let's see what else you got. And that's when he sparred with Andrew Tabiti. And in Andrew's own words, and I think very highly of Andrew Tabiti, he said, I feel like when I'm sparring him, I'm looking at myself with the speed, the power, the movement. And those were great accolades. Those are great endorsements by Andrew. So we knew what we had right away. The fact that he has all the social media behind him, it's a game changer.
In terms of his development, he's had plenty of time down in the gym now, plenty of time to work with yourself and Jeff, among others. Do you feel you're all managing to get your stamp on him at this point? It's all sort of sinking in?
Yeah, listen, the transition from amateur to pro is always the hardest stage in a fighter's life because, they go from that fast slap kind of lots of combinations to a little bit more relaxed, slowing everything down, being able to fight in pockets, higher intensity, lower intensity. Not every single shot's a brick. Sometimes, to throw a couple of pebbles in there as opposed to the amateurs where they were just all out nonstop. And he's done a phenomenal job doing that. Vidal spars, he's fighting 4-round fights, but he spars, 6-8 rounds, handles it very well. The biggest thing right now is to make sure that he stays healthy. He's always in shape. We did a DEXA scan on him. He's got 0% visceral fat. He's just off the charts with his strength, his speed. The most important thing now is to make sure that he stays healthy, and that's it.
Final one on Vidal. I spoke to him in Miami, as I did with you, and he said I'm done with the coaching side of things, you know, the likes of JJ and Anise and Gabe. We spoke about Gabe, so I'll leave that there, but there is rumours starting to sort of gather pace that KSI will return and face Jake Paul at some point. Is it hard to rule out the lot of you guys, I know you were his camp manager at some point, return into that fold?
Look, as far as Vidal, I'm his regular manager. With JJ, I was his camp manager. If that opportunity presents itself, and I had a very, open, candid conversation with Liam, JJ's manager, and I told him, what it would probably take for that fight, in my opinion, to happen. And if those terms come to fruition, then great. Right now, JJ is the king of YouTube boxing. He's the king of YouTube. The things that he's doing, music and business opportunity. He's doing some videos with some real, big name guys. It's a game changer for him to come back and box again, which he doesn't need to. He's not trying to be a professional world champion. He's not trying to do that. He gets in, he makes his money, he leaves, he goes on to the next thing, it builds his brand. That's what you do. That's what everybody wants to do, is just make as much money in as little time as possible. There's got to be a huge financial upside to make that work. So if it does work, of course we're going to sit back down, and we never let JJ on his own. That's our guy, that's our home team. So we're going to make sure that we do everything in our capacity to make sure that he's 100% prepared for the next fight.
It's nice to see Badou Jack today. He's been down here, but I think he said he's been back in the gym a week now. He's had a bit of time away as well after the Jean Pascal fight. We spoke briefly about the Pascal fight. I know he, you and others feel aggrieved by that decision. He landed more jabs, more power shots, everything you could possibly look at in that sense. Are you pressing for a rematch?
No, listen, any fight that Mayweather Promotions puts in front of us, and we have one right now that is pretty much a done deal. You know how it works. We don't talk about anything until it's done. Badou won that fight. Everybody knows it. At the end of the fight, if you were to look at our corner and their corner, they knew they lost the fight. We knew we won the fight. Everybody was shocked. You saw Floyd's reaction in the ring. You heard the crowd, if you were there, everybody booing. Badou happens to be the unluckiest boxer. And I had a candid conversation with Leonard. I said, Leonard, explain to me how this happens. And he's like, listen, it's just the worst decisions I've ever seen for a fighter to get. He's fought now 7 or 8 world champions back to back to back to back. And you're talking about 5, 6 controversial decisions. It's just very unfortunate. And I don't know what to attest that to, other than, but look how classy Badou is when he takes those losses and he takes those bad decisions. No problem, I'll take the next one. I think that's why he's blessed with the opportunities that he gets, is because Badou, and you don't have to be a Badou Jack fan, but it's hard to root against a guy like that.
One thing I asked Badou about that I'd like to get your thoughts on. You both have respective, very glittering careers, whether kickboxing or boxing. But away from that, the Badou Jack Foundation, in terms of your legacy and Badou's legacy, but yours in particular, given you are stood here, does your legacy away from the ring mean more to you than your fighting legacy?
100%. When I talk about my fighting career, and even I look back at pictures, and when you get your throwback Thursday photos, it's a different life. It was a different mentality. It was a different mindset. It was a different. Even my heart was in a different place. It was fighting, and that was it. That was what I eat, lived, breathed. Now, yes, my ambitions and my goals are outside of the ring, and the Badou Jack Foundation gives me more gratification, fulfillment, and a sense of accomplishment than anything I've ever done. I believe the way that the Badou Jack Foundation is running, and we just brought in a brand new team to help us with that, the way that it's running is it's going to make Badou bigger than he is as a fighter. He was just in Gambia, and he helped build orphanages over there for the Gambian refugees and the orphans. That's what victory is. That's what championships are about, helping others that can't help you.
Now, you've got your Team Canelo-Plant t-shirt on there, so let's come on to that. Caleb made his homecoming last weekend, 10th round-stopped victory over Vincent Fagenbutz. What was that experience like to see the sort of home fans getting behind him, and did it seem the start of something special out there?
First of all, I'll say this. When I met Caleb the first time 5-6 years ago, I had one conversation with him, and I said, this is the most marketable kid in boxing. The fact that he could talk the way he does, the fact that he acts the way he does, his mindset, his story, the way that he can fight, his slickness. I saw things that Caleb did in sparring that I didn't think were humanly possible. And listen, let's be honest. And the fact that he's a white American fighter, that means a lot to this fan base. He's not the norm. They call him the Great White Hype. He's the real deal. So I saw that Caleb had that ability to do and transcend the sport of boxing, the normal mindset of how people usually promote fights. For him to be in Nashville, my first thought was maybe it's too soon. But he packed that place, sold it out. I mean, it was just electrifying, the atmosphere in there. Canelo-Plant is the real deal. Aside from him being, the brash, confident, outspoken fighter that he is one of the most beautiful guys I've ever been around. And I genuinely love the guy. Like I said, a lot of people know him as the undefeated world champion. We know him as Uncle Caleb and our home team, my brother, and he's just a great guy. I can't wait to see what's in store for him. And now he's in the driver's seat. Where before, I'll tell you a story about Caleb. We went to the movies, my wife and I, him and Jordan. This was before the babies were born, so it had to have been 6 years ago. And at that time, Caleb was not making the kind of money that he was now, not even remotely. It's the fight. I mean, I have to be honest with you. He wasn't making any money. So we went to dinner, and afterwards he asked for his food to be boxed up because that was going to be his dinner or the breakfast or lunch, whatever, for the next day. And, fighters, when you're coming up, everybody accounts for every single thing. And I remember we went to the movies, and on the way back, or on the way to the movies, rather, he saw a homeless lady sitting at the corner. So he goes, Amer, just pull over for a second. And I did, and he went and he grabbed the food and he gave it to her. He went and left the car. He didn't give it to her through the window. And he crouched down next to her, and he gave it to her, and he goes, he said some things to her that I couldn't hear because I was driving. But he said some things to her, and you could see, like, he patted on her shoulder and he gave her the food. And I came back, and I said, I go, man, weren't you going to eat that? He goes, listen, unless you were in that woman's position, you'd never imagine what it's like to be there. He goes, I was there. He goes, so I think those are some of the reasons, and there's so many more stories like that. Those are the kinds of reasons why Caleb has the blessings that he does.
I spoke to Caleb yesterday, and he confirmed me his team have made offers to Gennady Golovkin for a fight at 168, and also Callum Smith from over in England as well. Do you think it's the perfect time for him to try and get that marquee name lined up?
I think the Triple G fight's a great fight for Caleb. Listen, any fight at 168 is a great fight for Caleb. In my heart and in my mind, I believe Caleb is the best super middleweight in the world, and that's not biased. That's the truth. Nobody's seen the kind of accuracy, slickness that Caleb possesses. So I think any of those guys would be a good fight for him. I would love the Triple G fight because I think that's a great name on his resume. In the United States, Callum Smith isn't that big of a name. He's not like the Triple G. But I would love to have I would love to see a Triple G fight. But he's got the best management team in the world right now, so they'll pick the right fight for him.
Just something I wanted to get your thoughts on, Amer, with that. I spoke to Caleb about it yesterday, this Canelo-Oscar De La Hoya back and forth. Caleb said that he didn't have enough time to rest and then get back in camp ahead of that May date. He sort of got a lot of backlash. Oscar De La Hoya was making comments in that fight was gone forever. What did you make of that whole situation?
I think, listen, first of all, you have to respect Oscar for what he accomplished as a fighter. And because of that, Oscar should understand what it takes to go to back-to-back camps. Caleb, when he trains, he doesn't just train 6 to 8 weeks. Caleb trains, he does a pre-camp, a full pre-camp. He takes this serious. Look, he cuts off everybody. So for you to tell a guy, literally, while he's getting out of the ring, he's still hot out of the ring, hey, in 9 weeks we got another fight, and yeah, that's not a lot of that. You got plenty of time. Yeah, for a regular camp, that is a lot of time, but not for a guy that was just in camp for 3 months. I mean, it makes no sense, and I'm surprised that Oscar would even come out of his mouth. And then when Caleb said no, and as he should have, he said, okay, then that fight's off. That'll never happen again. Child, man, that's just crazy to me. The guy is a world champion. He's one of the 3 main world champions. He just fought. Now you're giving him 9 weeks? Come on, man.
Final one before I let you go, Amer, because I appreciate you got your little one down here, and I think you got one other interview to do as well. I'm in town for Wilder Fury 2, Vegas this weekend. Tell me how the fight's going down.
Listen, Tyson Fury, I helped him in camp get a chef that they needed, George Lockhart, who is the best nutritionist company in the world, Lockhart and Leaf. Tyson Fury feels better, looks better. I had the pleasure and the honor of Badou and I went to his camp. He's not joking around. He's not messing around the way that he usually is. Laser focused. Tyson Fury is going to shock the world Saturday night.
Amer, a pleasure as always. Thank you very much for your time. I'll see you soon, my friend.